This looks absolutely awful. And after the glue up, it got even worse. But maybe this board can still be saved. I'll have to remove the narrow slats anyway. Along with them, I lose some more material during the milling, so the board will get noticeably narrower. To make up for the lost width, I decided to add thin ash accents between the main pieces. These scrap pieces will be perfect for that. Since the old slats were far from perfectly straight, I first tried to assemble them using hot glue and get them as close to 90 degrees as possible. But I quickly realized that getting them perfectly square this way just wasn't going to work. So I just bundled the slats together, clamped them down and secured them with hot glue. After that, a few passes with the rotor and the surface is flat again. Then I go over it with a utility knife blade to remove the rotor marks and prep the surface for the glue up. I prep the ash inserts exactly the same way. Now it's time for the glue up. I prepared some small shims beforehand to raise the old slats. Thanks to this, they'll sit roughly in the center of the new ash strips, which means we won't lose any unnecessary thickness. For the glue up, I'm using brown wood glue and clamping it all together with my homemade threaded rod and block clamps. And right here is where I thought for the first time, maybe it really would have been easier to just throw it away, because right after the glue up, board looked, to put it mildly, not great. But the most interesting part was yet to come. I started routing the surface to flatten it and remove the excess material, and after the main bulk of the material is removed, the flat surface of board finally reveals itself, and honestly it turned out to be not that bad at all. I start the raw sanding. By the way, my DIY overhead dust extraction arm with the auto start switch, which I built in one of my previous videos, is really shining here. Now I need to get the board back to its proper geometry. I use a router to bring it down to the final dimensions and square up the sides. And here's what we got. I also don't like the old hole, it's gotten clogged with grays and looks pretty sad. So I make simple jig and slightly enlarge the diameter using a Forstner bit. I cut small 45-degree chamfers. I love how they give the board such a clean sharp look. I also add a chamfer to the hole while I'm at it. Now for the best part, the finishing touches. First I lightly sprayed the surface with water to raise the grain. Once it dries, I move on to the final sanding, going up to 220 degrees. That's more than enough for a cutting board. It's not high-end furniture after all. I carefully wipe away all the dust and finally move on to the oil. And this is where a little surprise was waiting for me. I always considered ash to be one of the thirstiest woods, but beech turned out to be even greedier. It literally absorbed the oil instantly. It's a special noticeably on the end grain. You apply it and the surface is already dry. So I apply several coats and give the wood time to soak it all in properly. Once the oil has soaked in, I apply my homemade board butter, a mix of food-grade mineral oil and beeswax, in a 1:3 ratio. Then I lightly heat the surface with a regular hair dryer to help the wax penetrate deeper into the wood. And as soon as I heat it up, the smell of beeswax fills the whole workshop. And beech does its thing again. It literally drinks it up right before my eyes. I leave the board for about another half hour, and then buff off the excess oil and wax until the surface is completely dry. And now let's see what we've got. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel.